The Human Resource Development Council provides an important platform that fosters collaboration on building the necessary skills required for the economic growth, development, and service delivery. It is seized with the responsibility of ensuring that the appropriate foundation is established for South Africa's objective of building a capable and a developmental state. For a developmental state to succeed, the overall capacity of the state to intervene, direct, and achieve desired outcome is dependent on the existence of a public service that is capable, professional, and committed. To address the performance gaps in a number of service delivery areas, the public sector needs to take a national long-term perspective on the public service training and capacity building, including the selection and placement of appropriately skilled individuals in the right positions. Performance deficiencies are a consequence of a mismatch between job requirements and competencies of incumbents, resulting in government's inability to deliver the desired services and lead to the achievement of expected developmental outcomes. For local government to function optimally, the appropriate selection and placement of skilled individuals in key positions is critical to ensure that necessary capacities exist to drive and champion development and service delivery at all levels of our government. For its part, the Human Resource Development Council is tasked with identifying critical skills required in our country across all sectors, including skills required to improve the quality of service within municipalities. This is intended to ensure that there's a clear response in terms of building a pipeline of relevant skills required to propel growth and development. Our assessment of local government performance points to some areas of concern resulting from inappropriate placement of individuals whose skills are not aligned with core competencies required for the jobs that they are doing. The audit outcomes by the Auditor General have, in a way, highlighted some critical areas of intervention to improve the performance of our municipalities. Where these performance challenges have been identified, it is imperative to provide targeted programs to enhance skills with a view of improving the performance of our municipalities. Some of the areas that are requiring urgent improvement include leadership capacity, managerial competencies, technical and project execution, as well as financial management skills. Through the Department of COGTA, SALGA, and National Treasury, a number of training and capacity building programs are implemented as part and parcel of integrated support to all municipalities. These programs include municipal finance development, technical project management and engineering skills to enhance project execution and delivery, especially in infrastructure projects, financial management and governance, leadership and management programs implemented through the School of Government. These interventions are complemented by focused recruitment and selection of competent managers in critical senior positions. The deployment of expert technical teams across a range of municipal disciplines is another important intervention to effect skills transfer programs that benefit municipal officials. Where skills audits have been undertaken, individuals are placed appropriately based on qualifications, skills, and experiences. The Department of Culture champions programs such as revenue enhancement, municipal competency regulations, municipal performance and financial monitoring, and many others. The Interministerial Committee on Service Delivery at district level will continue to engage with the Human Resource Development Council in order to identify and coordinate intervention measures that will provide the required skills to improve performance of our municipalities. With regards to the second part of the main question, it is important to point out that these matters raised herein, they fall outside the defined scope of the Interministerial Committee on Service Delivery at district level. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Deputy President. The Honourable Steenhuisen.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Deputy President, for the answer. Deputy President, I'm very glad about the huge emphasis in your response that you've placed on the role of the COGTA department in your interministerial committee, and just how integral that department is to addressing many of these service delivery challenges. So I thank you for reinforcing that. But then it begs the question, Deputy President, because one of the key frustrations for communities when it comes to service delivery is the lack of answers that they get from departments when it comes to their queries, and that often spills over into violence. The problem we have is that the minister in charge of COGTA, who is an integral part of your committee, as you've highlighted here today, is not answering questions from members of Parliament. Almost half of the questions that have been put by honourable members of this House relating to municipal service delivery problems have come back with a one-line response saying the department doesn't have this information, and if we get it, we'll provide it to you. The same minister today missed a hearing with Scopa to discuss the breakdown between Eskom and municipalities. And I ask you, Deputy President, as the leader of government business and the head of the Interministerial Committee, what are you going to do to ensure that this COGTA minister starts to do her job as it relates to Parliament and with the municipalities?
Order. Deputy President.
Thank you very much. I think it's important that members of the Executive Council must, in their day-to-day work, be mindful of the work of Parliament and also respect this institution. Now, if there are complaints about the Minister of COGTA, I will take a discussion with the Minister so that whatever challenges, whatever misunderstandings that are there can be addressed. But all of us, there should be no impression created that there are some members of the Executive Council which deliberately undermine this House. I don't think that should be the intention, and it will never happen from this, I'm saying cabinet. Members of cabinet,
You are
they
protected,
are not
Deputy
going
President.
to deliberately undermine the work of this institution. If that has happened, we are going to correct that. It is our intention that all questions that are asked are responded to timelessly. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Honourable Mishwe.
Thank you, Deputy President. The ACDP is very concerned that recommendations made by the Auditor General seem to be ignored by various departments that should be taking corrective action because of that, there are no consequences. And government's failure to hold incompetent office bearers to account has led to many municipalities and departments becoming dysfunctional. Some have even had to be put under administration because they ignored the advice and guidelines given to them by the Auditor General. It is disgraceful, Deputy President, that from the report of the Auditor General, about 18 municipalities.
Honorable Mishwe, your question, please.
Okay. Out of 18, out of 257 municipalities have received clean audits. So what I want to know is what government is going to do, because this has been a pattern over the years, to correct this unpleasant situation. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The Honorable, the Deputy President.
Thank you very much. Findings that are made by the Auditor General with regards to departments, national departments, I think it's the responsibility of ministers and our DGs to respond to those findings. But with regards to municipalities, I can safely say here, the Department of Culture has put in place a mechanism, a support mechanism, to try and assist all municipalities to respond to the audit report. Some municipalities have been placed under administration, which the kind of support that is given to those municipalities is different from those that are supposed to respond to certain audit queries. Now, the Interministerial Committee on Service Delivery at district level is doing very well. And the lead department there is COCTA. COCTA is working very hard to address the challenges that are there in municipalities. Of course, we must accept that from time to time, the AG is complaining about leadership and governance, which is a matter that all of us sitting here as different political parties, we must look at, because this is not only a matter that affects the governing party. Some of the municipalities are governed by parties that are here, and they experience the same problems. Leadership, governance failures, it's one thing that is common across almost all our municipalities. So what I'm saying is, COCTA has developed a myriad of responses, comprehensive responses, to respond to these challenges. And what is good to note is that through this process, COCTA is able to unblock where there is blockages in terms of service delivery. The Interministerial Committee is starting to really make the necessary meaningful impact. Our visit in OR Tambo and our visit in eThekwini is starting to give us the desired impact. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy President. The Honorable Mente.
Thank you, Speaker. Deputy President, with the municipalities that are governed by different political parties, EFF has never been in government. Don't say all parties that are here. In Johannesburg, our mayor has done 100% good. In fact, much better than you have done in the last 25 years, all of you combined. Deputy President.
Order, members.
The interministerial task team that's looking into this matter of balancing the skills and dealing with the service delivery, it must bear in mind that at the local level, that's where the municipalities are faced with
Ms.
social
Mente, your question. You've got
ills of every day with the people. And what happens with the division of revenue, they only get allocated 10%. Yet, they are the ones that are at the cold phase of
Ms.
service
Mente, your
delivery.
time has expired.
Why are you not doing away with the provinces
Honourable Member,
in
your time has
order
expired.
for the local government to receive more money in terms
Thank
of
you,
service
ma'am.
delivery and employing more skills that's required for the service delivery of our people?
The Honourable the Deputy President.
Thank you, Speaker. Well, in terms of the revenue that is collected by municipalities, 100% of that revenue goes to municipalities. For instance, municipalities will collect money for water, municipalities will collect money for electricity, will buy electricity and sell electricity and make a profit. So all rates and taxes goes to municipalities. Now, it's quite important that municipalities must be able to manage these finances and must be able to collect this revenue. Their billing system must be strengthened. As we speak, municipalities are not collecting 100% of what is owed to them because of the discrepancies in their billing system. Now, the Department of COGTA is doing everything it can to help them to enhance their billing system. National government is supporting municipalities through grants. These are grants that are given to municipalities for infrastructure, for that and that and that. But in the main, revenue that is collected by municipalities remain with them. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Honourable members, perhaps I should do this. The person who puts the question gets the first supplementary question. That honourable member has 2 minutes to put that supplementary. The 3 other supplementaries, you've got exactly 1 minute to put that supplementary. Yes. The last supplementary goes to the Honourable Mpambo Sibukwan. Did you not press, ma'am? Okay.
Ngaphambili.
You be on.
Sekela Mongameli. Umbuzo endinawo ndicela ukubuza ukuba kwezi zinto ziqhubekayo ngeliphi inyathelo othe walithatha wena njengosekela Mongameli ukwenza into ukuba ujezise aba bantu baphula imithetho. Enkosi Sekela Mongameli.
Ngiyabonga. Ngiyacabanga nje ukuthi ukhuluma ngezinto ezenzeka lapha yana kuMasipala. Ukuthi kukhona abantu abenza some fraudulent activities there. Manje ke lapha kuMasipala kune council. Kune council, kuno mayor, kuno municipal manager. Bonke laba bantu banelungelo ukuthi uma kukhona umuntu ophuma endleleni ngemsebenzi ayenzayo kube yibo futhi abamlethe endleleni. Ngokwe constitution kungumsebenzi wabo lokho. Ungaba u deputy president kodwa ukwazi ukuyofika lapha yana ukuthi hayi wena municipal manager ugangile ngifuna ukuxoxa mina. Akwenzeki kanjalo. Nalapha ke kuhulumeni sino minister, sino director general, bonke labo bantu banomsebenzi othile. Uma ngabe kukhona okungahambi kahle ku department, irresponsibility yokuqala iwela ku director general, iwele na ku minister. Okuyibo bantu kokuqala kufuna bathathe inyathelo ukuthi balungise lokho okungakalunganga. Nalapha yana kuMasipala ke kunjalo. Ngiyabonga.
Siyabonga, Deputy President. The question number 14 is put to you, Deputy President, by the Honorable Sivambo.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. We would like to assure this House that the amendment of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, 1996, in order to enable the expropriation of land without compensation remains a commitment and a priority of this administration. Government will not deviate from this policy. As a reminder to all of us, the Freedom Charter sets out fundamental principles that emphasizes, among others, equal rights, shared opportunities, as well as the pursuit of redress, redistribution, social, economic, and spatial justice. In practical terms, the Charter foresees a direct role for both public and private property ownership, a developmental role of the state, a state with legal authority, political will, and the desired resources to address the imbalances of the past. We have said in this House and elsewhere that the land reform process shall be pursued in a responsible manner that seeks to address the following objectives: sustained inclusive economic growth, address the skewed concentration of ownership by large corporations and monopolies, diversify the economy through reindustrialization, manufacturing, and beneficiation. In other words, we are pursuing a land reform program for increased agricultural production, for integrated human settlement in order to address apartheid spatial planning, and for industrial use to support manufacturing and other means of production. The Interministerial Committee on Land Reform and Agriculture, tasked with coordinating and providing political leadership to accelerated land reform, is currently finalizing government's comprehensive response to the recommendations that were made by the panel of experts on land reform. A comprehensive response to the panel's recommendations will be presented to Cabinet for consideration and approval. It is worth pointing out that the panel of experts on land reform has supported the amendment of the Constitution to set out an unambiguous provision for expropriation of land without compensation. The panel also supports the finalization of the expropriation bill to enable land expropriation within a properly guided legislative framework. In as far as the work of the Constitutional Review Committee towards the amendment of Section 25 of the Constitution is concerned, the chairperson of the Joint Constitutional Review Committee announced that the committee would be able to meet its deadline to amend the Constitution. He has indicated that the committee will have completed its work by March 2020 as directed by this House. He has given the assurance that everything is on track to meet this deadline. We are confident that Parliament will be able to finalize its own process within the planned schedule. In the meantime, government will proceed with the development and tabling of the expropriation bill currently underway to provide for the expropriation of property for public purpose or in the public interest. This process will not be affected by the parliamentary process for the amendment of Section 25 of the Constitution. Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
The Honourable Shivambu.
No, I can, Sir Deputy President, for confirming that the expropriation of land will happen as planned and as agreed by this House and its government policy. We were just tabling this question because one of your members, Halima Mutlante, had said that not in 100 years expropriation of land is going to happen in South Africa. So thank you very much for confirming that it's going to happen. So you don't have to say anything again. Just say you confirm that expropriation is going to happen. You confirm.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
The Honorable Mbabama.
Deputy President, the DA recently assisted Ntatera Khase in winning a groundbreaking court case, which compelled the government to sell him the land he has been leasing from the Department of Rural Development and Land Reform for almost 30 years. How many other black farmers are in similar situations across the country? Would you, Mr. Deputy President, as the leader of government's efforts to fast-track land reform, not make a bigger impact on land reform by following up on those farmers and enabling ownership through title, rather than upholding an unnecessary decision to amend a perfectly worded constitution to allow for the fallacy of expropriation of land without compensation? Thank you.
The Honorable, the Deputy President.
Well, thank you very much. We are not going to go back to the discussion of why we should really amend the Constitution. I think we've explored that one in a big way. But going forward, government is going to announce its policy on redistribution. Now, like we have said, we are packaging land parcels, that these parcels of land are in the hands of government. We are in a process of redistributing those parcels. But we must know how we do it. The criterion should be supported by a policy. Now, in that criterion, land is going to be redistributed to young people, to women, all those who aspire to be farmers. Now, there are many forms of redistribution. Leasing is one of them. We can lease land to you, you can utilize that land. Yes, it is. It is.
Order.
We are not going to, probably it will be better to debate the policy once it is announced. But I'm saying, when land is redistributed to an individual, and that individual go and borrow money against that land, if he or she fails to pay, that land can be taken. So you have defeated the aim of redistribution. So we're going to look at a number of options that will empower those people. But we're saying to lease land, you are given support, produce. I don't know why people are so worried about government just giving people land, because this land, when I'm indebted, I'm inclined to sell this land. I'll sell it. And finally, I don't own anything. I'm back to square one. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy President. The Honorable Mulder.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy President, for your reply. Honourable Deputy President, we took note that the Honourable Shivambu, who asked the original question, was very excited about your reply. What I would like to ask you, do you agree with the Honourable Shivambu's party, the EFF's policy that says all land should be expropriated and handed over to the state and should belong to the state?
Well, that is the policy of the EFF. Why asking me? Because I'm from the ruling party.
I ask if you agree with that.
Well, it's their policy. And we have stated our policy clear. So,
Speaker, you can allow him to ask us, we'll respond. We can give him a perspective.
No, Honorable Shivambu, you will have to do that outside the House.
No problem.
That is bilaterals outside.
I'm sure, Honorable Speaker, we should encourage that. They can discuss outside. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Chaser.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Mr. Deputy President, what are the legal challenges do you anticipate when expropriating land without compensation? And how ready are you for those legal challenges? And don't you think it's proper for the municipalities to first release the land to the needy people to show that the government is serious about this? Thank you very much.
The Honorable the Deputy President.
Well, what we are anticipating is that there will be resistance. There will be resistance, and we are prepared to face that resistance because our intentions are noble. They are meant to benefit the country. So we are prepared to travel this journey. And we are saying, as we prepare ourselves to travel this journey, that our land reform program is meant to redress the past imbalances. There are people who have been dispossessed of their land. We must redress so that all of us can enjoy the freedoms of our struggles. All of us can enjoy the benefits that the country as a whole accord to its people. So we're mindful of the challenges, but our people must know that there's goodwill on the side of government. We really mean good. We mean good for the country and its citizens. We're also encouraged by the fact that a number of farmers, white farmers, are stepping forward, donating land. This is a goodwill which we would like to encourage. Where there's land that is not utilized, people can donate that land so that other people can put that land into productive use. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy President. We move on to the next question. Question number 15. It was put to you by the Honorable Adams.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. The imperative for the moral regeneration of our society has never been more urgent, given the lingering effects of moral decay in our nation, leading to an alarming upsurge in gender-based violence, femicide, and death in our schools across the country. When the moral regeneration movement was established, it was due in large to the vision of the foresight of the former president, Nelson Mandela, who believed that parallel to the reconstruction and development projects, which focus mainly on government's efforts towards improvement of the material conditions of our people, there should also be an effort to ensure that there is an RDP of the soul. This meant that equal attention had to be paid to the project of rebuilding the foundation of a morally upright society anchored on core values of dignity, equality, and respect for human rights and liberties. This will focus on moral renewal, the promotion of positive values in society, and the cultivation of a collective sense of consciousness and corresponding obligations in safeguarding one another's welfare, as well as building a united and a cohesive society. This was born out of a growing realization that our history of social fractures, violence, instability, and moral decay were signs of a struggling society, not at peace with itself. For social reconstruction to gain traction, moral renewal and transformation had to be embedded and interwoven into the fabric of society as a whole. For all intents and purposes, the moral regeneration movement as a civil society-led organization has made tremendous contribution towards orchestrating a socially inclusive process that fosters multi-stakeholder participation in pursuit of moral renewal in our communities. Through government support, the moral regeneration movement has managed to implement programs and campaigns that are focusing on moral renewal and ethical conduct. Our task is to build on what has been achieved to date and address existing constraints through targeted support in terms of additional resources required to upscale and expand the footprint of the moral regeneration programs. We've made a commitment to mobilize resources for moral regeneration movement, both within government and outside government. It is important to mobilize support for the moral regeneration movement in terms of additional resources to complement government's contribution. Thus, we need to create more and more platforms of participation for key sectors of society such as business, faith, fraternity, as well as our traditional leaders, just to name a few, to be able to participate. In view of the above, we are planning a moral regeneration summit in the last quarter of this financial year, which will provide a platform of engagement for other key sectors as to get them to commit to this moral regeneration program. The summit will be preceded by a stakeholder consultative workshop that is scheduled to take place on the 7th and the 8th of November 2019. The workshop will set out the agenda and framework for engagement at the National Summit. What ought to come out of the workshop and the summit is a real concrete plan on moral regeneration which will have been costed and which will be implemented as part of the 2019 to 2024 medium-term strategic framework commitment. As part of the current work being implemented by the moral regeneration movement, there are various programs such as the anti-femicide campaign, the Charter of Positive Values, and Ethical Leadership Program. We must indicate here, honorable members, that the work of the moral regeneration movement can only gain traction to the extent that there's proper coordination between moral regeneration movement and provinces together with municipalities. In this regard, we are committed to further extending our work of the moral regeneration movement to districts, given the new district-based model approach to planning and service delivery. Going into the future, it is clear that our moral regeneration program across the country has to give priority attention to problems and social ills that are threatening to tear our society apart. The anti-femicide campaign will become even more important as a core component of the broader moral regeneration program. Given the unacceptable high incidence of gender-based violence, and more specifically, intimate partner abuse and murder. This will be in keeping with the President's solemnly pledge to deal with gender-based violence. In addition to the Charter of Positive Values that has been endorsed, and most of the dialogues and community conversation of the moral regeneration movement that are organized across the country and framed around the substance and the spirit of the Charter of Positive Values. The Charter is a practical example of putting the values of our Constitution into practical effect through the lens of the African moral ethic of Ubuntu. The Charter seeks to interpret the values of the Constitution, taking into account African values, traditions and cultures, philosophy, our collective sense of being, and our way of life. We will continue with the campaign of popularizing this charter of positive values in our schools, in all our public facilities, so that we inculcate and deepen social consciousness on the intent and meaning of these positive values within our societies. Our working partnership with the Department of Correctional Services will continue to focus on rehabilitation programs for inmates as part and parcel of preparing them for reintegration into communities. In terms of ethical leadership programs, the Moral Regeneration Movement has developed a mutually beneficial partnership with the South African Local Government Association, in which a number of councillors and in some selected municipalities have benefited from the induction on ethical leadership. This is aimed at raising their level of consciousness on the need to be ethical leaders in discharging their roles as public representatives at local government level. We will be stepping up efforts in ensuring that this ethical leadership program is expanded to reach more municipalities as well as more representatives, public representatives in general. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy President. The Honorable Adams.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Honorable Deputy President, I fully agree that moral regeneration is and shall be a responsibility of the entire society, starting with individuals, families, and communities. How should the moral regeneration movement be given more support to lead the program and campaigns to rebuilding a culture of taking personal responsibility for our actions as citizens and developing leaders for all sectors of society with ethics and integrity? I think.
Deputy President.
Thank you very much. First of all, we've realized that doing the work of the moral regeneration movement, we are constrained as government in terms of financial resources. That is why we are opening our hands, expanding, opening up this platform to other sectors in society. We're looking at business, we're looking at the participation of civic society, we're looking at the participation of traditional leaders. We're expecting them to contribute towards the moral regeneration program. Of course, some of them are going to participate, some of them are going to support in terms of financial resources. The only way to succeed going forward is to open up, get more and more people, more structures, more sectors involved, so that we can reach more and more people. Because this is a very important element in our life as a country. If we are to succeed, we must ensure that we build a society that is founded on good values, positive values, a society that will stand upright, a society that will deal with all the social ills and undermine those that seeks to threaten that society. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy President. The Honorable Mukalipi.
Thank you very much, Speaker.
Deputy President Julius Nyerere said, social cohesion without Pan-Africanism is reactionary and is dangerous. Do you agree with that statement? In the light of what is happening in the country in terms of the xenophobic that is taking place in the country, which puts South Africa in a bad light. What is your perspective on that one? Thank you.
The Honorable, the Deputy President.
Thank you very much. Well, the South African community has got a past of struggle, which has connected us with countries in the continent. Of course, in terms of that perspective, we should treat one another as brothers and sisters in the continent. But beyond that, as human beings, we must treat one another with respect, irregardless of our color, irregardless of our traditions, our cultures. We must treat one another with respect. That is a basis for success. Now, in our case, it's very different because when we were engaged in a struggle for our own liberation, we had to get assistance from our neighbors, from the entire African continent. So that has, in a way, bonded us with our brothers and sisters in the continent. It should be very important for South Africans to know where they come from so that they can shape their future. Now, it's unfortunate if people are going to segregate one another in terms of their tribe, in terms of their race. That is unfortunate. But when we talk about moral regeneration, there are certain values in life that must be upheld for a society to be cohesive, for people to coexist, for people to stay together. First of all, we must respect one another. Respect one another, live, and let other people live. Now, gender-based violence is something that is strange. It's very strange, which you don't understand. Probably, like we said last week, that probably some of the things emanate from our cultures. Patriarchy is one of them. The stereotypes which we grew around with, those are things that must be undermined because they tend to look down upon a certain section of our community, especially women. That is embedded on the way we do things, the way we were socialized, which we must change. Now, that will need people sitting here to stand up and mobilize society. Let's talk about these issues. These issues are wrong. A girl child must be treated like a child. If you have got two children, one is a boy and one is a girl, these children are equal and they must be treated equal. They must be loved the same way. Now, in the manner we do things ourselves, as parents, we are not really building a society of tomorrow. Now, some of the social ills that we're confronted with today, these are as a result of the upbringing, the way we are parenting, the way we are bringing up our children. Some children are growing up in the absence of parents. Some parents are parents because they've given birth to children, but they are not there to see the upbringing of these children. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy President. The Honorable Shriver.
Thank you.
Honourable Speaker, thank you. It is jarring to hear the hypocrisy of the Deputy President. Speaking of morality, when the conduct of his own government sets an example of moral collapse in South Africa.
On a point of order, Chair.
A point of order.
I'm rising on Rule 84. The members just said the President is Hippocratic. I think that basically it compromises the morals of the President. Thank you.
Honorable Shriver.
Yes, Honourable Speaker?
You said the Honorable Deputy President is, you said you referred to him and said his hypocrisy.
Honourable Speaker, I refer to the hypocrisy of the statements that he was making. That is a value judgment, and I'm allowed to make a value judgment, Honourable Speaker.
Honorable Shriver, you said it is, you referred to his hypocrisy.
Honourable Speaker, I withdraw. It's fine, I withdraw. Thank you. May I
Please
continue?
proceed with your supplementary.
Honourable Speaker, the government immorally chooses to spend 30 billion rands per year on millionaire cadres rather than on hundreds of thousands of underpaid police officers, nurses and teachers. This government continues the immoral practice of cadre deployment, the very policy that caused 1 trillion rand to be stolen through state capture. Why should South Africans listen to a word the Honourable Deputy President says about morals when his own government undermines the moral fabric of our country?
The Deputy President.
Madam Speaker, just before the Deputy President responds, if I may just rise on Rule 80. Madam Speaker, we've got to jealously protect members' rights to freedom of speech in this House.
Yes.
For us to be able to say that. And I would submit to you, Madam Speaker, that calling somebody's arguments hypocritical is not casting aspersions. It's not on the character of the individual, it's on their arguments that are hypocritical. And I really think that we're straying, we're perambulating perilously on a violation of free speech. We can't have thin skin in this House if we're going to be honest with each other. Now, there was not an impugnation on the integrity of the Deputy President. His argument was hypocritical.
Honorable Steenhuisen, if the honorable member had referred to what he said as hypocritical, but he didn't. He said his hypocrisy. And that is exactly why I'm ruling the way I am ruling.
Honourable
No.
Speaker, excuse me, Honourable Speaker, on a point of order, I quote my words to you.
On a point of order, Chair.
It
Please
is
take
jarring
your seat,
to hear
Honourable
the
Shriver.
hypocrisy of the Deputy President
Please
speaking
take your
of
seat.
morality.
Please take your seat. Unrecognized, you will not stand up. Deputy President, may we proceed?
Madam Speaker, may I ask that to resolve this, that you examine the Hansard and come back to the House with a considered ruling.
Dr. Steenhuisen, no order, members. Order. When the honorable member said his hypocrisy, I repeated after him. And he said he withdraws. I'm not going to examine when I actually heard him say his hypocrisy.
Madam Speaker, I'd like this referred to the Rules Committee for...
Please refer it to the Rules Committee. Can we proceed, Deputy President?
On a point of order, Honourable Speaker.
What is the point of
My
order, ma'am?
apologies, Honourable Speaker. We cannot have it that you have ruled on the matter and the member has withdrawn. So we are going to throw that thing out of the Rules Committee. We will not allow
Honourable
it.
member.
Thank you.
That's fine. The matter has been referred to the Rules Committee. That is where it ends.
Madam Speaker, there's already been a prejudgment now of what's going to happen in the Rules Committee. How's that fair?
Honourable Steenhuisen, before the honourable member stood, I said, please refer it to the rules.
Madam Speaker, given the comments of the Deputy Chief Whip, would she then concede that we can take it straight to the Western Cape High Court?
Honourable Steenhuisen, I'm not going to bog this House down with this dialogue. No. Order. Honourable Steenhuisen, please, man, kaulaleke. No, we will not have a back and forth between you and I. I have ruled on the matter. Deputy President, please proceed.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Well, I heard a statement. There was no question. Can I request, Honourable Speaker, if the member can state his question?
Honourable
The
Speaker.
question, Honorable Schreiber, do you want to get into the question without referring to the hypocrisy?
I'm happy to do that, Honourable Speaker.
You have the floor.
Honourable Deputy President, thank you. The question was, given the fact that the government acts immorally by continuing to spend examples like 30 billion rand a year on managers rather than on underpaid police officers, nurses and teachers, given that the government continues the immoral practice of cadre deployment, which led to state capture, why should South Africans listen to this government when it talks about morals, when it is one of the main perpetrators of immorality in this country? Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
Thank you. That's the question, Deputy President.
Okay. Well, the money that we're spending on all people that we have employed in the public service, I think those people deserve those salaries. They deserve those salaries. I accept that the performance of these people, at times, some of them, their performance is not up to scratch. I accept. But it's not that all of them that are employed in the public service are not equal to the task at hand. That is why there is service delivery there and there. Of course, there are glitches that are caused by incompetencies there and which we are addressing. But it will be wrong to say the money that we're paying to all these managers in the public service, we're just wasting that money. These people are working, they are delivering services every day. So we are not denying the fact that there are challenges. But as much as there are challenges, there are successes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy President. The Honorable Zungula.
Thank you, Speaker. Honorable Deputy President, I think we must be specific in terms of what do we define as morality, what do we define as positive values. We need to be specific and clear. For example, a moral person can reject millions of rands as they know whoever funds you controls you. That is why the Chief Justice rejected a donation of 600 million. But an immoral man can accept such a donation and not see anything wrong with it because at the face of it, no law has been broken. Therefore, the question to you is, as a leader of government business in Parliament and as part of the strengthening of political maturity, what is your message to all of those who have allowed themselves to be prepaid? Thank you.
The Honorable, the Deputy President.
People that have been prepaid. Well, all I know is that people can donate money to other people, and that is allowed because finally that is going to be declared. It's going to be declared, it's going to be known. A donation, we should take it, it's a donation. It's a donation. Now, if there's something that is hidden behind the donation, probably time will tell. Time will tell. But we cannot just right at the onset say, no, this person is given this money because down the line expected to return the favor. We cannot say that. Until that favor is returned, then we can question it. But at the face value, we should accept donations are being made everywhere. And as members of Parliament, you're also continuing on your daily work, daily business. You donate what you can donate. It's a goodwill. But beyond that, if there's a catch behind the donation, time will tell. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy President. We proceed to question number 16. It was put to you by the Honorable Jason.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Our foreign policy position moves from a basis that the promotion of regional integration is an important economic and political goal of our government. South Africa's development is linked to the development and stability of Africa, especially our region of Southern Africa. It is on the basis that our government has, over the years of our democracy, committed itself towards consolidating the African agenda. To advance this agenda, we have sought to establish constructive partnerships with other African countries, and we have promoted mutually beneficial economic relations that are based on the ideal of regional integration. As we all work towards this African continental integration, we are mindful of the prevailing development challenges facing not only our region in Southern Africa, but the whole continent. These development challenges are well documented, and they include, among others, undiversified commodity-led growth path, small and fragmented markets, infrastructure deficiencies such as energy, telecommunication, poor connectivity, as far as roads, rail, and ports is concerned, which all have negative impact on trade facilitation. Lack of technological infrastructure and research, instability linked to armed conflicts and poor political governance, inadequate human capital and brain drain, dependence of certain countries on foreign aid. For decades, the continent was characterized by a history of civil strife and armed conflict, which has since been replaced by maturing democracies and good governance. It is true that we still have isolated cases of instability, but overall, the current reality is that Africa is not the same as yesterday. The region has trade and investment potential in areas of agriculture, agro-processing, infrastructure development, in terms of roads, rail, ports, telecommunication, water purification, bulk supply of electricity, logistics, information communication technology, to name a few. If these are fully exploited, they will contribute to establishing appropriate interconnection that will enhance intra-regional trade. The African Continental Free Trade Area that has been signed and ratified by 54 African countries seeks to fast-track the agenda of continental integration and create one large market as opposed to current fragmented markets that are found at country level. The African Continental Free Trade Agreement, therefore, represents a significant leap forward in achieving the long-standing objective of African integration and shared continental economic cooperation. It is about market integration with infrastructure development and industrial development to boost intra-Africa trade and sustainable economic growth. By providing a large continental market, this free trade area offers us an opportunity to improve economies of scale and efficiency, thereby improving Africa's competitiveness, both in its own market and globally. This free trade area is an important initiative in accelerating industrialization and economic development across the African continent. It aims to build an integrated market in Africa that will see a market of over 1 billion people with a combined GDP of approximately 3.3 trillion US dollars. The 54 member states are expected to progressively eliminate restrictive measures that affect trade in services through the reduction and removal of market access barriers. Currently, South Africa's primary export destination in Africa is SADC region due to the advantage of proximity to countries in this region. This free trade area presents us with an opportunity to further growth of our trade volumes and expansion to new markets. For instance, we can build further from current trade volumes with the likes of Nigeria in West Africa, which is currently around 56 billion, Kenya in the East Africa, which is currently at 9.1 billion, Cameroon in Central Africa, which is currently around 630 million rands, and Egypt in the North Africa, currently at around 4.1 billion rands. This free trade area further provides South Africa with an alternative market for export of value-added goods as well as trade in services. While the scope of this free trade agreement does not include technology and digital trade in specific terms, the African Union is currently undertaking a parallel initiative on the development of an African digital trade and digital economy development strategy through the Specialized Technical Committee on Trade, Industry and Mineral Resources. For its part, South Africa is developing a comprehensive response to the digital trade and the Fourth Industrial Revolution through the President's Advisory Commission on the Fourth Industrial Revolution. The emerging issues from these processes, as far as initiatives around the Fourth Industrial Revolution is concerned, should bring into sharper focus how, as African countries, we can engage meaningfully in technical cooperation across various sectors of development. We should look at how we address youth unemployment by harnessing our manufacturing capabilities and human innovation. We can, for example, make major advances in upscaling our value-added exports, taking advantage of rapid technological advances to achieve new efficiencies along product value chains. The deployment of digital banking technologies and solutions across the continent will integrate financial services, facilitate trade, eliminate red tape, and reduce the cost of doing business on the continent. It will link producers with markets. For our part, this suggests that the agenda of building a better Africa must also focus on technical cooperation between relevant research and development agencies, as well as industry association in areas of industrial research, technology development, standards and enterprise development as tools to enhance further trade and investment. We therefore call upon the private sector in particular to play its part in the process of a continuous skilling of its own workforce to adapt to the ever-changing environment influenced by technological advancement. Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
Thank you, Deputy President. The Honourable Njase.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Well spoken and explained. Mr. Deputy President, South Africa is grappling to digitize its economy, and the allocation of spectrum is moving very, very slowly. The biometric system in some of the parts of the Africa's national airports is poorly managed. Would you therefore intend convening a symposium in the near future for the purpose of shaping a better Africa using the tools of the fourth industrial revolution? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy President.
Well, I don't think, as Deputy President, I'll be looking at convening this symposium because the President has appointed an advisory commission on the fourth industrial revolution. This commission will be looking at preparing the country for the fourth industrial revolution and looking at challenges that might come with the fourth industrial revolution. For instance, work that was done by 1,000 people will be done by robotics, few. Now, that will mean we must reskill those people so that they don't lose their job. These are some of the recommendations that will come with this advisory commission that will be looking at the impact of the fourth industrial revolution on the current setup and how do we prepare ourselves as a country going forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy President. The Honorable Ndlozi.
Thank you, Speaker. My question is, there's very little understanding in the country, I think across the world as well, about what we mean on these revolutions or industrial revolutions. For clarity, so that we know we're on the same page, can you say what are the first 3 industrial revolutions? And 2, calm down. And 2, how will, Speaker, can I be protected?
You are protected.
Because I can't hear myself. Honorable Ginger is in my ear.
Order, please get to your question instead.
How will disrupting me, Speaker?
You are protected. Please proceed.
How will nanotechnology affect medical diagnosis? Thank you.
Deputy President.
In terms of the first, the second, and the third industrial revolution, probably that's a new question. Because the question it's intended, it's looking at the fourth industrial revolution. Now you're taking me back to the feudal way of doing things. I must take you, we must start from the first industrial revolution, come to the third industrial revolution. That will take us a long time. And I'm prepared if a new question is asked to explain all these industrial revolutions up to the fourth industrial revolution. And I'm not very sure as a country whether we are in the third industrial revolution or whether the second industrial revolution. Now, the fourth industrial revolution, in the main, is characterized by the introduction of information technology. An easier way of doing business, the introduction of robotics in our industrialization process to enhance our competitiveness. But in the main, our fourth industrial revolution seeks to improve the way we are doing business as a country so that we can be faster, we can be more competitive. That's how I can define it. Now, with regards to the first and the second and the third, That's a new question which we can explore.
Madam Speaker, on a point of order,
You are recognized.
I think the Deputy President needs to phone a friend.
That's not a point of order. Deputy President, are you done?
I'm done.
The Honorable Tsebekulu.
Speaker,
Are you on a point of order, Honorable?
something
Ndlozi?
like that.
Yes.
There's no something like
Point
that.
of order.
What is your point of order?
I really want to impress upon you, Deputy President. Do not come to Parliament to speak about the things when you don't understand them. It's wrong.
Yes.
Please go take time to understand these revolutions because they are upon us as a country. And if we are not prepared, particularly on the understanding of the leadership, then you cannot lead us.
Honorable Ndlozi.
So I really want to impress upon you humbly. Go
Honorable
and understand
Ndlozi.
these revolutions and what the fourth industrial revolution entails and how it's going to affect us, particularly nanotechnology.
Honorable Ndlozi, thank you very much. That was on a point of information, not a point
That's
of
a
order.
wrong information, misinformed.
Honorable Tsebekulu.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, can I come in here? I said the question on the first and the second and the third industrial revolution is a new question. Is that wrong? Is that wrong? In my
No,
take,
honorable
this is a
members,
new
no,
question.
let's
Speaker.
not do this. Honorable Shivambu,
Speaker.
please take your seat. Let's not do this.
Speaker.
Honorable members, Honorable Shivambu, please take your seat. Please take your seat. Honorable members, the question from the Honorable Njaisa is a question which deals with two major things. It deals with the fourth industrial revolution in the context of the African free trade. The follow-up questions need to be either on the response on the fourth industrial revolution or on what the Deputy President has said on both the African free trade and the fourth industrial revolution. I think let us leave it at that. Honorable Ndlozi has made his point. He has said, please go brush up on the other revolutions, leave it at that. Now I am on Honorable Tsebekulu.
Mthokozo Somlomo. Hlonishwa Sekela Mongameli. Ngokwencazelo yakho kubeke kwacaca ukuthi lenselelo eza nani. Kulo mbuso wethu obonakala ungenamandla okulawula nokuqondisa uxhwanguxhwangu ezweni. Ngabe mhlonishwa amathuba mahle kangakanani kithi ukuthi sikwazi ukungena kuyona ngaphandle emabe kufika lezi inhlelo abantu beye emgwaqweni bexove inhlalo nenqubekela phambili lentuthuko nokusebenza kwabantu. Isibonelo zolo lokho ke kwaba khona ukuthi amabhanki azodiliza. Kwaba nomkhulu umsindo ofuna abantu bokhipha imali zamabank nganena kwesikhathi. Ngabe umhlonishwa ubona ukuthi kuzophumelela yini mabe iSouth Africa ingena kulolu uhlaka nohlelo ukuthi kuyokwenzeka ngempumelelo ngaphandle kube khona umsindo ezweni xovekizwe nemisebenzi ngiyabonga.
Siyabonga baba. Deputy President.
Siyabonga. Umsindo uzoba khona. Inhlelo le esingeke sayivika o sivikele. Izinto ezizokwenzeka siyafuna ngasifuni. Yindlela nje okwenza ngayo izinto inqubekela phambili. Every day there is an improvement on the way we do things. Uma ke amabhangi lawa adiliza abantu kusho kona ukuthi laba abavule leyo bhangi sebayabona ukuthi sebabhadala nje ama salaries abantu kodwa ikhona indlela enye engcono abangakwazi ukuservice ama-customer wayo njengoba nje umuntu umephethe ifoni uyakwazi ukwenza i-transaction nebank akasadingi ukuya ebhangi ayovela khona. Kungakho-ke ama-stage lawa amabhangi amaningi azovala. Kusho ukuthi the more si-developa siya phambili, siletha new technologies, vele abantu abebenza umsebenzi othile kuzofuna ba-retrainwe ukuthi bayenze omunye umsebenzi. Yilokho vele kuzosivelela endleleni. Upresident-ke u-appointe le commission ukuthi size ibheke izinto ezifana nalezo ukuthi uma i-4th industrial revolution le ithi set in kuzowenzeka lokhu kuzowenzeka lokhu kuzowenzeka lokhu sikulungele kangakanani njenge-country ukuthi sikhona ukucope sikhone futhi ukudilana nazo lezo nkinga siqhubekele phambili. Kodwa sifanele sikusho ukuthi uma kuphela imisebenzi ethile eminye imisebenzi amathuba azovuleka kodwa ke esingeke sikwazi ukuthi amathuba avulekayo namathuba avalekayo azobelingana na. Kodwa abantu abavalekelwe amathuba kuzawufanele ba-retrainwe ukuze baqhubeke babe relevant. Angeke siyisabe le inguquko njengoba umfowethu lapha ekhuluma athi angichaze nge-first industrial revolution, second industrial revolution, third industrial revolution. Konke lokho indlela esihambile in terms of development. Kusho ukuthi indlela esesenza ngayo izinto ihluke kakhulu kune-first industrial revolution. Sesingcono, sesinemishini enza izinto ezithile asadingi abantu ukuthi benze physical. Kwenye indawo sesi-employ machine. Ngakho-ke sizoqhubeka siye phambili. Thina njenge-country asikulungele ukuthi sibhekane nale nguquko. Yebo, siyabonga.
Ngiyabonga. The Honorable Mbuyen.
Thank you very much, Speaker. Deputy President, we welcome your response in relation to the African Continent Free Trade Area and also note the establishment of the Presidential Advisory Commission on the 4th Industrial Revolution. Then, Deputy President, with the reality of the 4th Industrial Revolution being part of us on the daily life, will our country be able to build capacity to reskill and be able to redeploy South African employees into new job creations, and also that is dealt with in terms of the 4th Industrial Revolution? Thank you very much.
The Honorable the Deputy President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. That is a necessity. I don't think as a country we can avoid that. Down the line, we must be able and be prepared to reskill our workforce. Already we have started to lose jobs in a number of sectors. I'm sure the commission that has been appointed by the President will come with a few recommendations in terms of those people already that have lost jobs in the different sectors. It's something that is unavoidable. And as government, as we continue the skilling of our nation, we must double our efforts. But like I've said, as we try and reskill our people, it does not mean that the 4th Industrial Revolution would only result in job losses. It will create jobs as much as it will close certain jobs. Those jobs that are closed we must reskill those people. We are not very sure in terms of the amount of jobs that are going to be created and the amount of jobs that are going to be lost. Now, the difference, as a country, we can be able to reskill those people going forward. I don't think we should be scared of the fourth industrial revolution. We're prepared, we'll handle the challenges, but I'm sure it will take us to another level of growth. It will take us to another level of development. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy President. We move on to question number 70. It was put to you by the Honorable Mandela. My instruction is that the Honorable Hlape will take care of that question. Deputy President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Across all spheres of government, government departments, municipalities, and state-owned companies play various and differentiated roles as custodians of state-owned land and property assets. Within the framework of applicable legislation and prescripts, they all have the responsibility to ensure that state-owned land and property assets are managed, deployed, and disposed of to unlock economic value to support our development and service delivery goals. Currently, there are various models implemented across government and state-owned companies to ensure that state land and property assets are utilized in a manner that supports fiscal revenue streams, public infrastructure deployment, development, spatial development planning, new investment, and growth expansion. Having said that, Honorable Speaker, the strategic management of state-owned land and property assets is key to unlocking economic growth and development to advance socio-economic transformation. Across all spheres of government and state-owned companies, land and properties are held to meet current and future service delivery and developmental needs. Without access to land for productive use, there can be no development. Without land for building, enabling infrastructure networks, such as roads, telecommunication, and bulk water reticulation, there can be no meaningful development. In addition to state-owned parcels, land parcels, government has, over the years, invested a huge portfolio of economic infrastructure, buildings and houses, some of which remain, as we speak, underutilized and inadequately maintained. Where land and properties are underutilized and in access to the requirement for originally intended developmental use, they must be released for alternative use in a manner that will unlock the country's growth potential. Within the framework of applicable prescripts and policies, state-owned land and immovable assets must be deployed, managed, and disposed of in a way that ensures full realization of inherent economic value. The release of state-owned land must serve the public interests and the long-term spatial development plans to deal with growth and future settlement expansion. Land invasion and uncontrolled settlement growth are unsustainable. That is why land must be proactively released to address this challenge, especially in our major cities. We must urgently deal with the problem of underutilized and derelict government-owned buildings, which are susceptible to hijacking by criminal syndicates. The release of these buildings for productive economic use is critical. As we mentioned last week in this House, government is taking a holistic approach to the release and redistribution of state-owned land and properties to address current and future developmental priorities. As part of accelerating our land reform, government has prioritized intervention measures that will unlock strategically located land for redistribution to support agricultural production, human settlement, and industrial development. The release of state-owned land will address the need to build human settlement, especially in urban and peri-urban spaces, to deal with population growth and the rising demand for new public infrastructure investment for the provision of road, water, and sanitation. Alongside this, we will prioritize the identification and the release of underutilized state buildings that may be utilized or converted into modern areas of accommodation. More essentially, government-owned land must be used to leverage and attract private sector investment in priority areas of economic growth to address poverty and unemployment challenges. Government has prioritized the development of special economic zones and industrial parks on state-owned land to promote investment and industrialization in targeted areas. Where economic infrastructure and assets remain underutilized, especially in the former homeland areas, national government is working with provincial and local spheres of government to revitalize these assets and provide business support, infrastructure, and services. This is intended to attract investment and support the participation of new small and medium-sized enterprises into the mainstream economy. The private sector can play an important role in unlocking the value of public land and property assets through sale, lease, or joint venture development projects. For instance, public-private partnership in the management of heritage properties and biodiversity conservation land assets can unlock the injection of private capital and expertise to support local economies and community development. Through the sales, concessions, or lease arrangement, government can unlock revenue streams to deal with some fiscal pressures. This will allow government to direct revenue streams from such assets to infrastructure investment and other service delivery priorities. One of the lessons from our work on land reform is that there is a critical need for better institutional coordination in the effective and efficient management of state-owned land and property assets. Our management system and operating platforms are not integrated and seamless to provide a single view of the country's composite balance sheet of state-owned land and property assets across all spheres of government and state-owned companies. This leads to poor monitoring of utilization by the custodians of these assets. In the process, the abuse of state land and properties for self-gain creeps in undetected. In the medium to long term, we need to integrate and streamline our systems to establish a common set of intergovernmental norms for records and inventories of state-owned land and property assets across the country. Decisions on state-owned and property assets must be based on clearly articulated development priorities, which are guided by the national spatial development perspective. Any uncoordinated and guided disposal or transaction on the state land and property assets may undermine the national interests and our commitment to the public good principle. Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
Thank you, Deputy President. The Honourable Hlape.
Thanks, Honourable Deputy President, for a comprehensive response. Honourable Deputy President, there's also state-owned land that is leased to private sector, and we will engage the relevant departments on the actual percentage on this one. Whilst at it, Honourable Deputy President, is there commitment to use state-owned land that is leased to private sector to advance the goals of transformation, land reform and empowerment of historically disadvantaged individuals? Thanks.
Thank you, ma'am. The Deputy President.
Like we've said, the three spheres of government have got different ways of managing land under their custodianship. Of course, it is allowed to lease land to individuals, even to the private sector, as long as that land is going to contribute to our development as a country. But the point that we're raising here is that as government, the three spheres of government, we must have common norms and principles on how to deal with state land, state buildings, and houses, so that the disposal of these assets are not used to undermine the growth of the country, so that we know as we dispose land, as we dispose a building, a house, we must do that in the national good to promote economic development. But as we have noticed here, is that some of the properties are being sold to private individuals, not for economic good. So in that way, we are undermining our potential as a country to utilize those assets to propel the country forward. So yes, it is allowed to lease land to the private sector. As long as that land is utilized, it's contributing towards the development of the country, that is allowed. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy President. The Honourable Steyn.
Thank you, Speaker. Deputy President, in light of your answer last week, where you warned fraudsters that would be dealt with harshly when found guilty, would you confirm that a protection order was held against you for harassment and intimidation of a whistleblower for exposing corruption in land reform in Mpumalanga? And would you therefore call on the President to ask for a SIU investigation of land reform in Mpumalanga?
Honourable Member, is that a supplementary to this question?
Speaker, it is in line of how to use land for productive use. There is corruption in land reform. The Deputy President alerted to that last year. He also said it today. He mentioned it.
Honourable Speaker.
Yes, ma'am.
My apologies to interrupt you. I think some people are still have a hangover of the conference they had over the weekend. This matter, the courts ruled on it, so it's neither here nor there. So there's no need for that honourable member to grandstand. Thank you.
Can I rule on this? I was asking the honourable member because obviously I was not here last week, because she makes reference to his response last week. My job is to protect everybody on this floor. including yourself against yourself. That's my job.
I see we've got Baleka Mbete back in form.
No, and I will not take that from you, Honorable Member. You will not interrupt me when I am trying to get... No. Honorable Steenhuisen, you will not do so. Honorable members, throwing tantrums is not going to help. I'm trying to get clarity. No, you will not do that. Honorable Steenhuisen, you will not do that. You will not backchat. No, I'm not protecting the deputy president. I will not protect anybody on this floor, but I will also not allow anybody to be unnecessarily and unfairly put in a situation. The reason I asked the Honorable Stein is because I needed to get clarity in his response right now. I did not catch where he refers to corruption. Deputy President, if you refer to corruption and this supplementary on this question comes from there, then you may respond. He gave the response. I don't need you to respond for me. I am putting this to the Deputy President because I asked a question for clarity from the member who was putting a supplementary.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I have said in this House, I'll repeat it again and again. No one is above the law. If there's any wrongdoing associated with me, I am not above the law. The best thing that you can do, go to the SIU, go to any institution. There are institutions of government that are responsible to investigate crime, whatever challenge that is there. Those are institutions that are there available. I don't understand why are we deciding to discuss corruption, we're deciding to discuss fraudulent practices here, which these things can be reported. If really you've got information about what went wrong when I was still Premier in Mpumalanga, please do the honorable thing and go and report it. Thank you.
The Honorable Thring. Honorable Thring.
Honorable Deputy President, the ACDP notes that land reform and distribution, which includes state-owned land, is a social challenge that requires the commitment of government and every South African to ensure the sustainability and prosperity of an inclusive South African economy. The ACDP, through our MMC on human settlements in the city of Johannesburg, has been at the forefront of taking state-owned land, developing housing units, and giving out title deeds to first-time proud land and homeowners. In the light of this, Honorable Deputy President, do you agree with the former President Kgalema Motlanthe when he said, a failure to protect property rights and issue title deeds to property owners destroys the value of such property? And if property is not protected by law, society as we understand it today will disappear because of the kind of anarchy and chaos that will ensue is difficult to imagine. In line with this statement, will the government unlock and release state-owned land, giving title deeds to its new owners in order to unlock the economic potential of such land? Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy President.
That is what we're doing. I've said it again and again that we are going to release land, state land, in order to support agricultural production. We're going to release land in order to support integrated human settlement, especially where this land is located close to where people are working, so that we eliminate this challenge that is faced by people every day to be traveling long distances to their places of work. I said so. And again, we are releasing land for industrial purposes, so that those who want to start their farms and all that, they should do that. This is a deliberate effort by government to try and stimulate the economy, to try and get the economy working, allow new entrances in the economy in terms of farmers, allow infrastructure development in terms of new houses, developments, and allow industrialization to happen. Release land purposely in order to unleash the potential of these assets that are held by government. Land that is good for human settlement, land that is good for industrialization, land that is good for farming. We said so. So I agree with you. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Nxumalo.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, the Deputy President. Considering the decaying state of general public infrastructure and in consideration to the incident that happened on the 21st of October 2019, whereby the floor collapsed at a public works building in Durban just before the meeting, the tender proceeding meeting. I would like to ask the Deputy President whether government has conducted an audit as to the state of government public infrastructure in order to assess the readiness of buildings, among other things, in supporting economic generation and activities. If not, why not? And if so, what are the relevant details? Thank you very much.
Well,
Deputy President.
I'm not aware of any audit that was conducted of all our government buildings. Of course, there are buildings that are held by national government. There are buildings that are held by provincial governments. There are buildings that are held by municipalities. Of course, we are aware that some of these buildings are not maintained. And of course, some of them are not really fit for the purpose. They can't be used. They are very risky to allow them to be occupied by people. But I cannot tell exactly the number of those buildings that are not in good state. I cannot tell you the number of buildings that are in good shape. Of course, this is one undertaking that we're going to do. We have explained the problem that the way we manage these government assets as the three spheres of government presents a problem. Some of the assets are managed at provincial level, some are managed at national level, some are managed at local government level, but they're all assets of government. They just happen to be under the custodianship of a municipality, under the custodianship of a province, under the custodianship of national. This is one area that we seek to correct so that we can derive value for these assets and we can utilize these assets to try and catalyze economic development. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy President. We are moving on to your last question for the day. It was put to you by the Honorable Lisuma. It's question number 18.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. As a country, we are tirelessly working on initiatives aimed at realizing the promise of freedom as expressed in our Constitution of 1996, Vision 2030, and the National Development Plan. However, our great efforts aimed at uplifting many South Africans to the level of socio-economic security continue to be hampered by our sluggish economic growth. Despite all this, we'll continue to soldier on in implementing all other initiatives that will yield a better South Africa for all. Our efforts are focused on social transformation programs that must deliver practical responses to our current challenges of unemployment, poverty, and inequality. Through various government programs, the championing of efforts towards fair and equitable provisions of the offerings to women, youth, and persons with disability remains a priority. This is a task that requires government to prioritize targeted intervention to support the development and empowerment of women, young people, and people with disabilities. In doing so, collaborative partnership with the private sector and other social partners is critical to mobilize additional resources to scale up government's effort. Our focus on the development of rural and townships is intended to create the necessary opportunities for skills development, entrepreneurship, and infrastructure support to benefit women, youth, and people with disabilities that are living in this township and rural villages. As government, we are also implementing an integrated, comprehensive youth employment strategy, which will be coordinated by a project management office in the Presidency. Through this strategy, we will ensure that in the next 10 years, more and more young people, young work seekers between the age of 15 and 35 will have engaged in a national pathway management network and access services to help them to grow their employability as they pursue work opportunities. In partnership with the Industrial Development Corporation, government departments, and other development finance agencies, the Department of Women, Youth, and Persons with Disabilities are leading the implementation of an enterprise and entrepreneurship development program specifically targeting women. This is one of the programs that are aimed at providing financial management skills to all categories of women who own and manage businesses. The Department of Women, Youth, and Persons with Disabilities has also partnered with traditional leaders to support women economic empowerment projects in the whole country, especially in rural areas, in areas under the leadership of traditional leaders. The Department of Social Development, in partnership with the Japanese International Development Agency, initiated community-based integrated development program. This program seeks to create capacity support for rural women and to unlock economic opportunities for persons with disabilities. This program has been piloted in Bembe district and Thabo Mfutshanyane districts, respectively. And it will be expanding into rural districts like in KZN and in the Eastern Cape in the next 12 months. Furthermore, the National Youth Development Agency is championing youth development programs for emerging entrepreneurs through the establishment of business incubation hubs. The agency also trains work seekers on job preparedness and life skills. It has also set itself a target of expanding its current reach by increasing the number of their centers in district municipalities to be more accessible to township and rural youth. Through the supported employment enterprises, an entity of the Department of Employment and Labor, employment opportunities are provided to over 1,000 workers with disabilities in designated factories across the country. Although these traditionally have been located in urban centers, plans are afoot to expand these into more rural provinces. To support the development of enterprises that are owned by persons with disabilities, the Small Enterprise Finance Agency established by Amavulindlela funding scheme to offer entrepreneurs with disabilities standard credit facilities at a preferential rate. This is supported by in-depth mentoring, coaching, and business development support to ensure that these enterprises succeed. Despite significant progress that government is making, more work still needs to be done to create a fully inclusive society where women, youth, and persons with disabilities enjoy equitable access to development and economic empowerment opportunities. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Deputy President. The Honorable Lesuma.
Masisibongele somlomo. Sekela Mongameli. Lo hlelo oluhle kangaka oluphokophela ukuguqula izimpilo zabantu basemzansi ikakhulukazi abantwana abesimame nabaphila ngokukhubazeka abakhubazekileyo abasemakhaya nasemalokishini ingakumbi usubekile. Kungabe zikhona nje Msekela Mongameli ohloniphekileyo izinhlelo zokuqikelela lokhu okwenzeka eBhembe naseThabo Mafutsenyane kwenzeka ngokusheshsha kwezinye izifundazwe ngaphandle kwalezi ezimbili othe ziyeza ngoba zinhlanu ezinye isalelo ongazikhulumisanga. Ngiyabonga.
Siyabonga. Deputy President.
Sibonga kakhulu. Ama-district lawa amabili bokuyindawo lapha kupilotwa khona kubhekwa ukuthi iyasebenza yini lento enziwayo yokusupporta omama, abantu abasakhula nabantu abakhubazekile. Njengoba ngishilo ukuthi kule inyanga ezu-12 ezizayo lo msebenzi lo uzo-expanda kuwo wonke ama-districts in the country, kodwa it will happen step by step in the provinces that are more rural, like provinces like KwaZulu-Natal, the Eastern Cape. Those are provinces that are more rural. I'm sure in the next 12 months, work will be done in those provinces. Yabo.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Sharif.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Deputy President, you speak about the Department of Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities as if they're doing something. But the fact is that they continuously fail to reach their targets and basically is doing nothing for women and youth and people with disabilities on the ground. But nevertheless, Deputy President, the Gender Responsive Planning, Budgeting, Monitoring and Evaluation Framework was approved by Cabinet in March 2017. But yet, 7 months later, it is still not being implemented by departments. Deputy Minister, what have you done and what are you going to do to ensure the fast tracking of this framework so that it can be implemented in all departments? I thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Deputy President.
Well, thank you very much. It's not only the responsibility of the Department of Women, Youth and people with disabilities. It is not their responsibility only. The responsibility to support women, young people, people with disabilities cuts across all departments and state-owned enterprises and all our development finance institutions. A lot of work has been done by the youth agency. A lot of work has been done by RDC. A lot of development finance institutions have supported women enterprises, have supported young people. We've done very little in terms of supporting people with disabilities. That is one area that we need to upscale. And we'll be happy to favor this House with the statistics of how much support has been given to women enterprises, how much support has been given to youth enterprises. And of course, like I've said, we're doing very well in terms of affording people with disabilities employment opportunities, especially in the public service. We're almost at that 2% level in terms of the employment equity. But of course, in terms of supporting enterprises that are led by people with disabilities, I think as government, we are falling short there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The Honorable Chabani. Honorable Chabani is not in the House. Okay. The Honorable Msani.
Thank you very much, Speaker. A study by Wits University last year, Deputy President, showed that commercial banks do not want to offer loans to entrepreneurs living with physical disabilities. And you've just mentioned that the department will try to incorporate them into financial institutions. What we want to know is by when will these entrepreneurs be assisted in order for them to benefit in all financials? Because we've always been promised without time frames, so we are kindly requesting for time frame.
The Deputy President.
Well, all our finance development agencies in government, across government, they are open to support enterprises that are led by people with disabilities. And if there are instances where such people are not assisted, they are turned back by these development agencies, we would like to assist there. But all what we know is that these development agencies that are under government are meant to help everyone, irregardless. But of course, we are prioritizing women enterprises, youth enterprises, and enterprises that are led by people with disabilities. So if there are instances where people with disabilities are not supported, we'll be interested to assist. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Sengwa.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, Deputy President. Regarding people with disability and women, I have recently revisited ZEC mine in KZN, and I was advised by the officials in the mine that there were no person with disability currently being employed, and that there were no females in any management position. What plans do you, as a leader of the government business, have to address the contravention of the relevant section in the mining charter, and whether government entities will be permitted to continue to do business with the said mine until the problem is corrected? If there are no plans, why not? If so, please be comprehensive in your response. Thank you.
The Deputy President.
Thank you very much. I'm sure that it's an isolated incident in KZN, and we'll be happy to get more information about that particular incident, because it's important probably to follow it up. But generally, in the public service, we have set ourselves a percentage in terms of people with disabilities, women, in all categories. And we have given the statistics in our last week's response that we are doing well as the public service. We are standing more or less, in terms of women, we are standing more or less at 39%. Where we are not doing very well, it's in the private sector, which we are prepared. In isolated cases, we can probably pursue such cases. With people with disabilities, we have set ourselves 2% across the public service, and like I've said, we're doing very well. We are not doing very well in the private sector. Probably they've got reasons that they can say, and we are prepared to persuade them to try and adhere to the Employment Equity Act. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy President. That concludes questions to the Deputy President. Thank you. The Secretary will read the first order of the day.
Consideration of report of Standing Committee on Appropriations on Special Appropriation Bill.
I now recognize the Honorable, the Chief Whip of the Majority.
Honorable Deputy Speaker, I move that the report be adopted.
The motion is that the report be adopted. Are there any objections? No objections.